God, through the intercessions of his most pure and holy mother, St. Nicholas, Archbishop of Myra and Lycia, patron of our community, the righteous ancestors of God, Joachim and Anna, and of all the saints, have mercy on us and save us, for he is good and loves mankind. Before we do the final dismissal, I'd like to read, as is customary in the churches of the entire Greek Orthodox world, to read the sermon of St. Epiphanios of Cyprus on the Holy Saturday and the great Sabbath of the Master. What thing is this? Today there is a great silence upon the earth, great silence and stillness. Verily, great silence, for the King sleeps. The earth was frightened and became still, for God fell asleep in the flesh and raised up those who from ages past were sleeping. God died in the flesh, and Hades shuddered. God slumbered briefly, and those in Hades he awoke. Where now that so recent tumult, those cries, that clamor against Christ, O you lawless? Where are the people, the oppositions, the ranks, the weapons, and the spears? Where are the kings, the priests, and the judges? Where are the lanterns, the swords, and the boisterous shouts? Where are the rabble, the jeering, the irreverent guard? Truly, in truth, and in truth, truly, the peoples have meditated things empty and vain. They have stumbled against the cornerstone, Christ, and they were shattered. They have hurled themselves against the solid rock, and they were crushed, and their waves dispersed into foam. They struck against the invincible anvil, and they were shattered. Upon the wood of the cross, they raised up the rock of life, and it brought them down and slew them. God the Son, Christ, set beneath the earth, and wrought for the Jews lasting nocturnal darkness. Today is salvation for men upon the earth, and for those who from ages past are beneath the earth. Today is salvation for the world, the visible and the invisible. Yesterday he was slapped. Today he smites the tenements of Hades with the lightning of his divinity. Yesterday he was bound. Today he binds the tyrant with infrangible bonds. Yesterday he was condemned. Today he bestows liberty on the condemned. Yesterday Pilate's ministers mocked him. Today the gatekeepers of Hades saw him and trembled. Listen now to the circumstances of Christ's twofold birth and acclaim the wonders. An angel announced to Mary Christ's maternal birth, and an angel announced to Mary of Magdala his awesome rebirth from the grave. At night Christ is born in Bethlehem, and at night in Zion he is reborn. Upon his birth he receives swaddling bands, and here also he is wound round with swaddling bands. When born he received myrrh, and at his burial he receives myrrh and aloes. There Joseph was the name of Mary's husband, but here Joseph of Arimathea proved to be the barrier of our life. In Bethlehem, in a manger, the former took place, and the latter in the tomb as in a manger. First the shepherds were given news of the birth of Christ, and first the shepherds, Christ's disciples, were given news of his rebirth from the dead. There the angel cried, "Rejoice," to the virgin, while here Christ, the angel of great counsel, cried, "Rejoice," to the women. At his first birth, Christ, after 40 days, entered the earthly Jerusalem and the temple, and as firstborn he offered a pair of turtle doves to God. But at his resurrection from the dead, Christ, after 40 days, ascended to the Jerusalem on high, from whence he departed not, and as the incorruptible firstborn from the dead, in the true Holy of Holies, he offered to God the Father our soul and body as two spotless turtle doves. And like some Simeon the ancient, God the Father received him uncircumscribably into his embrace, into his own bosom. If, however, you hear these things as though they were fables and not with faith, The unbroken seals of the Master's tomb condemn you with respect to Christ's rebirth. For just as Christ was born from the Virgin, while the natural gates of the virginal nature remained closed at the opening of the womb, so also Christ's rebirth was wrought while the seals of the tomb were unbroken. But as to how Christ, our life, was placed in a tomb, and when and by whom, let us listen to the sacred words. When even was come, he says, there came a rich man of Arimathea named Joseph, and went boldly unto Pilate and begged from him the body of Jesus. A mortal went in before a mortal, asking to receive God. The God of mortals he begs, clay stands before clay, so as to receive the fashioner of all. Grass asks to receive from grass the heavenly fire. The miserable drop seeks to receive from a drop the whole abyss. Whoever saw, whoever heard such a thing? A man grants to a man the creator of men. A lawless man undertakes to surrender the definition of the law of lawless men. A judge deprived of judgment permits the burial of the judge of judges who has been judged to death. Therefore, there came a rich man named Joseph of Arimathea, who was a secret disciple for fear of the Jews. And there came also Nicodemus, who at first came to Jesus by night. O hidden mystery of mysteries! 2 secret disciples came to conceal Jesus in a tomb, thus teaching by his concealment the mystery concealed in Hades of the God concealed in the flesh. Each one of these men surpassed the other in their affection for Christ, for Nicodemus proved his magnanimity by the myrrh and aloes, and Joseph proved worthy of praise by his daring and boldness before Pilate. For he, casting off all fear, went in unto Pilate and begged the body of Jesus. Now when he went in, he acted very shrewdly, so as to obtain his longed-for aim. Therefore he did not employ high-sounding and pompous words, lest Pilate be moved to wrath and he fail in his request. Nor did he say to him, give me the body of Jesus, who but a short time ago darkened the sun, split the rocks asunder, shook the earth, opened the sepulchres, and rent the veil of the temple. Nothing of the kind, he said to Pilate. But what then? A certain pitiful plea, in every wise lowly. O judge, I have come to make of you a trifling of him who was condemned by you, Jesus of Nazareth, Jesus the poor, Jesus the homeless, Jesus the crucified, Jesus the bound, Jesus the shelterless, Jesus the stranger, who is a stranger in a strange land, Jesus the contemptible, who before all was suspended upon the cross. Give me this stranger, for what profit to you is the body of this stranger? Give me this stranger, for from afar he came to this place to save a stranger. To a dark region he descended to draw up a stranger. Give me this stranger, for he alone is a stranger. Give me this stranger whose country we know not, the strangers. Give me this stranger whose place and birth and ways we know not, the strangers. Give me this stranger who lived in a strange land, a strange life and existence. Give me this stranger whose generation and disposition we know not, the strangers. Give me this stranger who had not where to lay his head. Give me this stranger who, as a homeless stranger in a strange land, was born in a manger. Give me this stranger who from the very manger fled Herod as a stranger. Give me this stranger who from his very swaddling bands was a stranger in Egypt, who has not city, nor village, nor home, nor abode, nor kindred, for this stranger is found in foreign lands with his mother. Give me, O Prince, this naked man on the cross, that I may cover him that covered my nature's nakedness. Give me him who is both a dead man and God, that I may shroud him who has hidden my iniquities. Give me, O Prince, this dead man who buried my sin in the Jordan. I entreat you for a dead man who suffered injustice from all, who by a friend was sold, who by a disciple was betrayed, who by brethren was persecuted, who by a slave was smitten. When these things spoke Joseph to Pilate, Pilate commanded that the all-holy body of Jesus be given him. And he went to the place called Golgotha, and took God in the flesh down from the cross, and laid him in the earth, naked God in the flesh, him who was not merely a man. Lo, he is beheld lying low, who drew all men on high. And he for a brief time is bereft of breath, who is the life and breath of all. He is seen bereft of eyes, who created the many-eyed beings. He lies prostrate, who is the resurrection of all. And God is slain in the flesh, he who raises up the dead. The thunder of God, the Word, is now silent for an instant, and he is borne in the arms of men, who holds the earth in his hand. Do you really, O Joseph, know whom you were given when you asked and received? Do you truly know whom you carry when you came to the cross and brought down Jesus? If in truth you know whom you carry, you have now truly become rich. Through the prayers of our Father among the saints, Epiphanios of Cyprus, Lord Jesus Christ our God, have mercy on us and save us. The most blessed Sabbath. Oh, that's not a bad idea.